you ever been charged with committing any crime?
No.
Have you ever been in something like probation, or did you do something so that you wouldn't have to go to jail? Alrighty. Have you ever been to jail or to prison before?
No.
Alrighty. That's when it's good to be boring, right? Have you ever been an alcoholic?
No.
Have you ever sold or smuggled any illegal drugs, cocaine, marijuana, anything like that? Did you ever help anybody sneak into the United States illegally?
No.
Alright, at any time when you were getting your green card or when you were coming to the United States, did you ever lie to a government official so that you could get a benefit, so that you wouldn't be deported or removed, or so that you could come into the United States?
No.
Alright. Were you ever ordered to be removed, excluded, or deported from the United States?
No.
Did you ever go before a judge?
No.
Have you ever served in the U.S. military?
I'm going to say no.
Okay. All right. And did you do your selective service registration?
Yes, I did.
That does trip some of the younger people up. A lot of times people think it happens automatically. It's not. Just, you can also check on sss.gov, and it's a public registration. If you know their social and their last name, you can look up to see. And we'll check also, but sometimes that is an issue for people. Alrighty, well, we got through all of the eligibility questions, so now we're going to talk about the oath of allegiance you're going to take.
Okay.
Alrighty. Do you support the Constitution and the form of government of the United States?
Yes.
Do you understand and are you willing to take the full oath of allegiance to
Yes.
the United States? If the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms or to fight on behalf of the United States?
Yes.
If the law requires it, are you willing to perform non-combatant services in the U.S. military? That means
Yes.
you're not going to be fighting, but if they need you to drive a truck or help wounded soldiers, is that okay?
Sure.
All right. If the law requires it, are you willing to perform work of national importance, but under civilian rather than military dress?
Yes.
All right. All right, Mr. Siebert, what I'm going to get you to do is I'm going to have you sign here, which tells me that everything you said today and included in the application is true. And you're going to sign here, which says that you're okay with taking the oath of allegiance. So we'll get them to sign at the interview. With the oath, there are some instances in which you can waive portions of the oath, but it's religious objection. So it can't just be, I don't want to, and even if it's a religious objection, they still have to at least agree to one of them. So typically people will do the work of national importance, but under civilian direction. The conscientious ones are really more for, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hans, but like affirm instead of, it's kind of a, minor details compared to, but it's religious objection only for the oath paper. And if we did that, we would cross through before he signed which portions he has the religious objection to. Sometimes I'll get these cute little 80-year-old ladies who tell me they don't want to hold a gun and they don't want to fight, but it's only if the law requires them to, so they don't have to go out and volunteer. So at that point, like, I'm pretty sure they're not going to pick you first, so you're going to be good. Once the interview is concluded, we'll give them a sheet of paper that's called a notice of results. If he had failed one of the tests, I would put exactly which test he failed. What happens is, if everything looks good, I have all the documents I need, then I'll check that it's recommended for approval. These are going to get checked again after me, so that's why we say recommended. It's not a surefire. They don't get another approval notice after the interview. And it takes a month or two before they're going to get the notice for the ceremonies. So sometimes people freak out that something's wrong, but just take some time before we get scheduled for that. Are there any questions?
I was wondering on the speaking and the reading and writing part, is it really only one question like you did, or were you speeding?
Yeah, if he had missed that question, then we would have gone to the next question and the next question. So there's 3 total, but they only have to get 1 right.
On the application, I've had this with another student. A speeding ticket, is that considered cited? Like, where does that does a speeding ticket go there?
It would be cited.
Okay, it's not a crime or offense. It's just a cited.
Well, it's still an offense.
Well,
technically.
yeah. So they would say yes to that.
Yeah, and then there's if you'll see, there's a box.
Yeah.
And then they can just put speeding ticket when it happened. Now,
Okay.
usually when I see the box check, yeah, I'm like, oh, and then when I see a speeding ticket, I'm like, yay!
Okay.
So, yeah, so
But-
it's better to just, you know, go
Say
the
no.
distance, be fully honest, yeah.
Okay.
And, but yeah, it is a citation, it is technically an offense, but of course it's not, unless it was a hit and run, even sometimes hit and run, but you know, unless it's something more serious.
Okay, so that would be a yes to charged and yes with convicted.
Right, and then
Okay.
usually, yeah, and
And then
then if they
explain
have,
this.
you know, where they paid the fine, they can throw that in, but it's not required, but at least they're telling me, and then we can just move on
It
from
just
there.
sounds so bad.
I know,
Speeding
guys.
ticket.
Oh my God. Yes, ma'am.
I have a lot of like international friends, like that are here at university.
Mhm.
Like growing up in school, they had like kind of like a junior communist party kind of thing.
Yeah, so the Communist Party, a lot of times, yeah, people had to be in it. So if somebody checks yes to that question, I'm going to find out more information about it. I'm not just going to be like, okay, can't wait to deny you. I'm going to say, when were you in the Communist Party? Were you in there because you really wanted to, or were you in there because every single child was? When did it happen? Was it more than 10 years ago, or was it yesterday that you quit right before my naturalization interview, that sort of thing. So we're not going to just leave it at that. If you answer yes to anything, we're going to kind of explore it a little bit more, mostly because we need to make the right decision. So we need to have that information in order to do that. But in and of itself, it's not a no-go.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am?
What are the fees associated with all
It's $685 total, correct?
680.
$680 total. Right. It's $595 for the form fee, and then it's $85 for the fingerprinting and photo. There is a fee waiver form that you can complete. It's the form I-912. And basically they would show either that they're receiving a means-tested benefit, that they make less than 150% of the federal poverty guidelines, or they have some sort of financial hardship. So with the means tested and they're making less than 150, they'll submit supporting documents with that. With the financial hardship, it kind of depends, but it gives them a space to kind of explain. So that is an option with it.
And once you know that they have a food stamps, they can waiver the fees.
That's
Is
a
it-
means tested benefit, so
Mhm.
yes. And earlier somebody asked about a refugee. Most refugees are entitled to means tested benefits, so that would then be the basis for them to file a fee waiver.
And if they file the fee waiver, they file it with the M400 all together at the same time. So instead of sending a check, they're going to send that form with any supporting documentation. But generally, if they don't qualify for that, then it's going to be the 680.
What type of obligations when someone is sponsored by another person? Financial obligations do the sponsor have with the individual?
Well, for naturalization, nobody's really sponsoring you financially, so that's really more a function of the permanent residency part. The best thing to do is actually to look at, it's the form I-864, so there's no financial requirements or that you have to meet for naturalization at all. You're just